They said I'd never be enough, so why was my sister now sitting across from me, asking if I had a job for her? I didn't recognize her at first. She walked into the office wearing oversized sunglasses, trying to blend in with the hallway crowd. But I'd know that posture anywhere. Sienna always entered a room like it belonged to her. Until now she stood at the front desk, asking for me. Maura buzzed my line. "There's someone here, she says she's your sister?" The pause in her voice said more than the words. I hadn't spoken about Sienna in years, not in this building. Not in this life I built. When she entered the glass conference room, she looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Just less inflated. Her eyes didn't sparkle with that same smug certainty. She was nervous. She was here for something. And I already knew what. She sat across from me, twisted her ring, and said, I didn't know who else to ask. I stared at her. The sister who used to mock my clothes. Who laughed when I got rejected from college scholarships. Who called me background noise. Now asking for space in my world. For a split second, I felt it, that ache I used to carry as a teenager, wishing she'd see me. Wanting her approval. Her kindness. But that girl was gone. And in her place sat a woman who no longer needed to be chosen to feel worthy. Sienna cleared her throat. I lost my job. I've been applying everywhere. I saw your company in a magazine. I didn't know you'd done so well. I didn't smile. I didn't say thank you. I just listened, letting her sit in the discomfort. She never gave me the chance to escape. I thought about every Christmas where she got what she wanted and I got what was left. Every school play she was applauded for, even when she forgot her lines, while I got scolded for speaking too softly. I thought about our mother's eyes, always on her, and now, those same eyes would probably beg me to help her. To be the bigger person. But no one had ever asked Sienna to be bigger, only me. Every single time. So I looked her in the eye and asked, why now? Not out of spite. But out of something deeper, a need to hear her say it. That she needed me. That the daughter who was never enough, had become the only option. Growing up, our house had 2 daughters, but only one name echoed in every room. Sienna. Her drawings went on the fridge, even when they were scribbles. Her tantrums were excused as creative expression. I was told to be quiet, be helpful. Stay out of the way. Colette dressed her like a doll, hair bows, ballet recitals, sparkling shoes. For me, it was clearance rack jeans and rushed mornings. You don't care about this stuff anyway, she'd say. As if not being adored made me less deserving of effort. At dinner, the spotlight never left Sienna. Gregory would ask about her day, laugh at her stories, compliment her plans. When I tried to speak, the mood would shift. Don't interrupt your sister, they'd remind me, even when no one had asked me a thing. I learned early not to expect praise. When I won second place in a math competition, Colette said, Sienna would have gotten first. When I helped organize the school fundraiser, Gregory called it cute. That word haunted me, not impressive, not valuable, just cute. Our birthdays were a study in contrast. Sienna had themed parties, gift bags, photo shoots. Mine was usually a cake from the discount bakery and a dinner I cooked myself by age 15. Lila's so independent, they'd say, like it was something to celebrate. By the time we were in high school, I stopped trying. I didn't show them report cards. Didn't ask them to come to award nights. They never noticed anyway. Sienna once skipped class for a month and still got a, well, she's under pressure, speech. I had perfect attendance and no one cared. She got into her dream school with average grades and a great portfolio, curated by our mother's connections. I got into a state university with scholarships and a full ride. They barely reacted. Gregory said, well, someone has to be practical. That was always my role, the utility daughter. During college, we didn't speak much. I worked 2 jobs, studied nonstop, built my network from scratch. Sienna posted vacation pictures and called herself an influencer. She majored in PR. I majored in finance. But to our parents, she was still the successful one. They visited her dorm every month, brought care packages, shared photos of her apartment. Online. When I graduated early with honors, I sent a group text with the announcement. Colette replied 3 days later, congrats. Let us know if you need anything. I didn't, because by then, I had stopped needing them. I was tired of waiting to be loved the way she was. The first red flag wasn't a moment, it was a pattern. Every time I succeeded, it was minimized. Every time she stumbled, it was softened. Sienna crashed the car once while texting. Gregory paid to have it fixed quietly. When I missed one curfew, they threatened to take my keys. In middle school, we both auditioned for the school musical. I got a lead role. She didn't even show up for the callbacks. But when the show opened, Colette told everyone she was too good for school theater anyway. I wasn't even in the program photos she posted. Sienna's room was redecorated 3 times before she turned 18. Mine hadn't changed since elementary school. I once asked for a bookshelf. Colette said, let's not waste money on clutter. The same week, she bought Sienna a new vanity, just because. At family gatherings, they always introduced Sienna with flair. She's our creative one. Our rising star. Me? This is Lila. She's very grounded. As if being reliable was a flaw. I stood next to her in every photo, half cropped out. Unmentioned. Unmissed. I was once sick for 3 days with the flu. No one noticed until my friend's mom called to check on me. Colette said, well, you're so quiet. We didn't realize. Sienna had a cough for an hour and ended up with tea, VapoRub, and a new blanket. She crashed a job interview once because she forgot her portfolio. I offered to help her practice next time. She laughed, that's cute. But I think I'll be fine. The implication was always clear, I could help, but I wasn't someone to be inspired by. When I started my own consulting business, I kept it quiet. I knew what would come if I shared too soon. Sure enough, once Colette found out, she said, hope you have a backup plan. Sienna had just lost her 3rd job in 2 years, and still, she was the one to watch. I stopped attending family events. I didn't want to sit through another round of comparison masquerading as casual talk. Sienna's got such a spark, they'd say. She just hasn't found her fit yet. And me? I'd be asked if I was still doing that office thing. Even holidays were uneven. Sienna got customized gifts, perfume, jewelry. I got kitchen towels and a generic sweater. I once saw Colette whisper to her while I opened my box. Sienna giggled. They didn't even try to hide the divide anymore. Every injustice was so small on its own. But together, they built a life where I was always second, even when I was the one holding everything together. It happened the week my company landed our first major client, a contract big enough to finally hire a small team. I invited my family to the soft launch event. It was more symbolic than anything, but I wanted them to see what I had built. Foolishly, I still hoped. They arrived 30 minutes late. Colette in her usual pristine blazer, Gregory behind her, already on his phone. Sienna didn't come. She wasn't feeling up to it, Colette said, like this night was optional background noise in their schedule. During my speech, I thanked mentors, clients, my business partner. I looked toward them once, not for approval, just acknowledgement. But they weren't listening. Gregory was scrolling. Colette was whispering with someone from another table. They didn't clap when I finished. Afterward, a reporter from a local magazine asked for a family photo. Just for the community section, she said. As I stood beside my parents, Colette asked the photographer, could you crop it tight? We don't need to include anything unnecessary. She was looking at me. That night, Sienna posted on Instagram, proud of my sister for following her little business dream. It was a selfie of her at brunch, nowhere near the event. The caption got dozens of likes. Comments like, you're such a supportive sister, made me feel sick. The final blow came in a family group text the next morning. Colette shared photos of her garden. Gregory sent a meme. No one mentioned the launch. Not a single, well done. It was like the night had never happened. Like I had never happened. I responded with one line, thanks for coming. Colette replied, of course. We always support you in our own way. I stared at the screen. That was their version of love, conditional, diluted, performative. The kind that leaves you emptier after every interaction. I broke down later that night. Not from their absence, but from the weight of pretending I didn't care. Every silence felt heavier than a scream. Every fake smile I forced had been another brick in a wall that finally cracked. That was the night I stopped inviting them into my life. Not out of bitterness, but because I finally understood, they didn't want to know me. They wanted to manage the image of me that made them comfortable, and I no longer owed them the comfort of pretending. The day after the launch, I didn't go to the office. I turned off my phone, pulled the curtains, and laid on the couch with the weight of a decade pressing down on my chest. It wasn't sadness, it was surrender. Like my heart had finally stopped begging. Rachel stopped by with pastries. They don't deserve you, she said, placing the bag on the counter. I nodded, but I couldn't speak. The words were stuck in that hollow space between disappointment and something colder, resignation. I scrolled through photos from the event. Smiling faces. Handshakes. The plaque with my name. But all I saw was the gap between what I had hoped and what I had. I had built something beautiful, and still felt invisible to the people I came from. It wasn't about needing them to validate me anymore. It was about the wound of being unseen in moments that should have been sacred. Milestones that deserved warmth, but were met with distance, distraction, and that unbearable silence. I didn't cry the way I expected. I just stared at the ceiling and thought about every time I had compromised pieces of myself to be digestible to them. Every edited text. Every swallowed comeback. Every time I downplayed an accomplishment to seem humble. My therapist once said, sometimes we grieve people who are still alive. I never understood that until now. Because I wasn't mourning their absence, I was mourning the version of me that kept trying to earn their love. I started deleting messages. Not angrily, just with intention. Birthday reminders. Old photos. Screenshots of half-hearted compliments. I was clearing space, not just in my phone, but in my mind. There was no room left for hollow echoes. Rachel came back the next day. She didn't ask questions. Just cleaned the kitchen, made tea, and sat beside me in silence. You built this life, she whispered, and no one gets to unwrite that. Not even them. That night, I opened my journal and wrote, I'm not waiting at the door anymore. Let them knock. Or not. I won't be standing there, hoping and for. The first time in years, I slept without the ache of unfinished conversations. I started going through my old journals. Not for nostalgia, for truth. I needed to see it in writing. The patterns. The dismissal. The way I trained myself to survive in rooms that never felt like mine. The evidence was everywhere. In one entry. From age 12, I wrote, maybe if I stop talking at dinner, they'll like me more. Another said, Sienna got new boots. Mine have holes, but it's okay. I'm used to cold feet. I wanted to reach through the page and hug that girl. She deserved better. I talked to Aunt Marla, my dad's sister. We hadn't spoken in years. I just asked her straight, did you ever notice how they treated us differently? She didn't hesitate. They always wanted Sienna to shine. You were too real for them. Too steady. That intimidated Colette. That word, intimidated, struck something deep. I had spent my whole life thinking I was lacking. But maybe they just couldn't handle a daughter who didn't need to be adored to keep going. Who didn't perform. Who simply existed. Honestly, Rachel shared something too. You know, she said over lunch, my favorite thing about working with you isn't your brain, it's how you treat people. You see everything. Even the things no one says. I blinked fast. No one had ever called that a strength before. I revisited early client emails. Scanned old LinkedIn messages. The praise was always the same, calm, focused, consistent, quietly powerful. Things my family never celebrated. But the world, the real world, saw me. And not just saw. Respected. Then came the interview. A podcast reached out after seeing our feature. We'd love to talk to Lila, the founder, they said. Founder. Not backup. Not second best. That word carried weight. So I said yes. For the first time, I wanted to be heard, publicly. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't send them the link. This was mine. But the morning after it aired, I got a text from an unknown number. Just listened. I'm sorry I didn't protect you more. It was from Gregory. My father. I didn't reply. I didn't even feel much. His silence had already shaped me. One sentence wouldn't rebuild anything. But it confirmed something. I had always suspected. They knew. They always knew. And they chose not to act, and now? I was done waiting for action. I was already living the life they said I never could. Sienna showed up unannounced the week after my podcast aired. No appointment. Just walked into reception and told Maura she needed to speak with the CEO. Maura's raised eyebrow said it all. She's your sister? I agreed to meet her. Not out of curiosity, out of closure. She walked into the conference room with the same practiced smile she used to wear when stealing credit for my ideas. But it didn't work here. Not anymore. She was dressed nice, too nice. Like she was trying to prove she still had status. I've been laid off, she started. I've had a hard year. I heard you might be hiring, and well, you know how family is. I didn't respond immediately. I let the silence stretch. Let her sit in it. Then I said, calm and steady, you told everyone I was a background character. Why now? Her face faltered, just for a second. I didn't mean that, she said. But we both knew she had. I admire what you've built. She added. I really do. I studied her. The way her hands fidgeted, the way she avoided direct eye contact. This wasn't admiration. It was desperation wrapped in charm. The same charm that once got her everything, except this time, it wouldn't. I told her we were only hiring. Through official channels. No favors. No shortcuts. She nodded, cheeks flushed, and said, of course. But we both knew what that meant. For the first time, I had the power, and I didn't need to use it to feel strong. A week later, her name appeared in our applicant system. No references. No portfolio. Just the empty confidence she'd coasted on for years. Maura asked, want me to reject it quietly? I thought for a second and said, no. Interview her. Professionally. The interview was underwhelming. She wasn't qualified. Not for what we needed. And we treated her like any other applicant. No cruelty. Just fairness. She left without making eye contact. No follow-up email. Just silence. The same silence. I had lived in for decades. When the hiring decisions were finalized, Maura placed the list on my desk. "No Sienna," she said. "Didn't make it past round 2. I nodded. Not because I wanted her to fail, but because she finally had to meet a version of me she couldn't charm or manipulate, and that was justice, not revenge, not humiliation, but equality. The kind she had never known. The kind I had to fight to earn. The months that followed felt different. Not louder, not brighter, just cleaner. Like the noise I'd been carrying finally quieted. Not because they changed, but because I stopped letting them echo in my head. That I still got the occasional message from Colette. Polite. Distant. "Hope you're well. Your cousin's wedding is next month." I didn't block her. I just didn't answer. Not because I was angry, but because I was no longer available to perform gratitude. I didn't feel Rachel and I grew the company. We hired intentionally. Mentored interns. We became the kind of leaders we had always needed. Quietly firm. Unapologetically clear. No one called us background characters here. We were the ones writing the script. One morning, an article featured our firm is one of the fastest growing women-led agencies in the region. My name in the headline. My face on the cover. I didn't send it to my family. But Sienna saw it. She liked the post. No comment. Just a like, silent, desperate, late. I laughed when I saw it. Not out of cruelty, but out of peace. She wasn't my villain anymore. Just a girl raised on applause who never learned how to build without it. I still was. Every day. At our next company retreat, I gave a talk on resilience. I didn't mention my family. But I told the truth. Sometimes, your strength comes not from who supports you, but from who refuses to. And the space that silence gives you to become undeniable. The team clapped. Not out of pity. But because they saw me. Fully. No comparison, no conditions. Just presence. I stepped off the stage feeling lighter than I ever had. Like I had nothing left to prove, not even to myself. One night, I found the old group chat. The one with Colette, Gregory, Sienna. I opened it. Typed one sentence. Then deleted it. I didn't need to say anything. The absence of my voice was louder now. And that silence, chosen, powerful, was my final word, because they said I'd never be enough. That I was too quiet, too practical, too small. But now, the sister who once called me forgettable had applied for a job at my company, and I hadn't just survived. I had built something they could never take credit for.